I feel that we've had a very successful presidency in 100 days. We've had people writing it was the best first month and best second month and really the best third month. But that you won't know about for a little while because it takes a little time and transition. You know, we're resetting a table. We were losing $2 trillion a year on trade, and you can't do that. I mean, at some point, somebody has to come along and stop it because it's not sustainable. We were carrying other countries on our back with trade numbers, with horrible numbers, and we've changed it. You see, the market fluctuates quite a bit. Today, it's up 1,000 or 1,200 points. It goes up and down, but that will steady out, and we're taking in tremendous amounts of money. We have, as you know, already 25% on cars, 25% on steel and aluminum. I think that what I'm doing is exactly what I've campaigned on. If you look at what I campaigned on, for instance, you can talk about removing people from the country. You have to do it because Biden allowed people to come in through his open border. Crazy insanity. He allowed people to come into our country that we can't have in our country. Many criminals, they emptied their prisons. Many countries, almost every country. Not a complete emptying, but some countries a complete emptying of their prison system. But you look all over the world. And I'm not just talking about South America, we're talking about all over the world. People have been led into our country that are very dangerous. If you were walking down the street and if you happened to be near one of these people, they would kill you and they wouldn't even think about it. And we can't have that in our country. You know, everything that I'm doing this is what I talked about doing. I said that I'm going to move the criminals out. I saw what was happening early on when I heard that he had opened borders because it was a hard thing to believe, built hundreds of miles of wall, and then he didn't want to, and we had an extra 100 miles that I could have put up because I ordered it as extra. I completed the wall, what I was doing, but I wanted to build additional because it was working so well, an extension, and he didn't want to do that. And when he said he wasn't going to do that, I said, well, he must want open borders. There were sections that were being built. He stopped to work on it, and I said, this guy actually wants to have open borders. That's going to be a tragedy for our country. It's going to mean that other countries will release into our country some very rough people. The prices of groceries have gone down. The only price that hasn't gone down is the price of energy. The cost of energy. I'm sorry, well, energy has gone down, excuse me? Yeah, let me change. That's the interest rates. And interest rates have essentially stayed the same. But almost every other thing, I mean, you take a look at what's going on, and we're taking in billions of dollars of tariffs, by the way. And just to go back to the past, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs from China, and then when COVID came, I couldn't institute the full program, but I took in hundreds of billions, and we had no inflation. We took in billions of dollars. We had no inflation. Now, if you take a look, the price of groceries are down. The price of energy is down. You can't say what they think, because so far, what I thought is right. I've been right about, well, they may have said that, but so far, I've been right. If you look at all of the years that I've been doing this, I've been right on things. You're gonna have the wealthiest country we've ever had. You're gonna have an explosion upward in the not too distant future. No, I've been here now for 3 months, and I inherited eggs, I inherited groceries, I inherited energy. It was all going through the roof. I mean, we had the highest inflation we've ever had as a country, or very close to it. And I believe it was the highest ever. Somebody said it's the highest in only 48 years. That's a lot too, but I believe we had the highest inflation we've ever had. I've been here now for 3 months. In 3 months, we are taking in billions and billions of dollars from other countries that we never took in before. And that's just the start. It's not in all cases. There are some products I really don't want to make here. I can give you a list because I actually have a list, but if you want, I could give it to you. How can they make long-term investments if our country is losing $2 trillion a year on trade? No, wait, just so you understand. How can we sustain, and how is it sustainable that our country lost almost $2 trillion on trade in Biden years? In this last year, that's not when you talk about a company. I had the head of Walmart yesterday, right in that seat. I had the head of Walmart. I had the head of Home Depot and the head of Target in my office. And I'll tell you what they think. They think what I'm doing is exactly right. I have to look at the individual business. Okay, our country is going to be very rich in not a long period of time. I've been doing this for 3 months, and if you look at the kind of numbers that we're taking in and the jobs, and if you look at, more importantly, the companies, the chip companies, the car companies, the Apple, $500 billion. Apple is investing $500 billion in building plants. They never invested in this country. I'm treating small businesses. Small businesses will be a bigger beneficiary of what I'm doing than the large businesses. But everybody's going to benefit. It's total victory, because the country will be making a fortune. Look, that's what China did to us. They charge us 100%. If you look at India charges 100 to 150%. If you look at Brazil, if you look at many, many countries, they charged, that's how they survive. That's how they got rich. Now, zero would be easy. Oh, zero would be easy, but zero, you wouldn't have any companies coming in. They're coming in because they don't want to pay the tariffs. Remember this, there are no tariffs if they make their product here. There are no tariffs if they make their product here. There are no tariffs. This is a tremendous success. You just don't know it yet, but this is a tremendous success what's happening. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars, money that we never took in before. We're also, very importantly, because of that, because of the money we're taking in, those companies are going to come back and they're going to make their product here. They're going to go back into North Carolina and start making furniture again. They've already started. In Mexico, many car plants that were under construction have stopped. They're all coming into this country. You're gonna see car plants going at a level that you've never seen before. I'm also chips. Look at Jensen. He's gonna spend $500 billion. Look at Mr. Wei from Taiwan. Oh yeah, I'll tell you why I trust them. First of all, I think they're trustworthy people. But more importantly, they have no choice because they won't be able to pay the tariffs if they don't do it. The tariffs are bringing in the business. Remember, with all the, questions you're asking about tariffs, there are no tariffs when you make your product here. Zero. There's many deals. You have to understand, I'm dealing with all the companies, very friendly countries. We're meeting with China. We're doing fine with everybody. But ultimately, I've made all the deals. I've made 200 deals. 100%. Because the deal is a deal that I choose. View it differently. We are a department store and we set the price. I meet with the companies and then I set a fair price. What I consider to be a fair price. And they can pay it or they don't have to pay it. They don't have to do business with the United States, but I set a tariff on countries. Some have been horrible to us. Some have been okay. Nobody's been great. Nobody's been great. Everybody took advantage of us. What I'm doing is I will, at a certain point in the not too distant future, I will set a fair price of tariffs for different countries. These are countries, some of them have made hundreds of billions of dollars and some of them have made just a lot of money. A very few of them have made nothing because the United States was being ripped off by almost every country in the world, in the entire world. So I will set a price, and when I set the price, and I will set it fairly according to the statistics and according to everything else. For instance, do they have the VAT system in play? Do they charge us tariffs? How much are they charging us? How much have they been charging us? Many, many different factors, right? How are we being treated by that country? And then I will set a tariff. Are we paying for their military? As an example, we have Korea. We pay billions of dollars for the military. Japan, billions for those and others. But that, I'm going to keep us a separate item, the paying of the military. Germany, we have 50,000 soldiers. I would say over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we're finished, by the way. We'll be finished, I'll be finished. Now, some countries may come back and ask for an adjustment, and I'll consider that, but I'll basically be with great knowledge setting ready. We're a department store, a giant department store, the biggest department store in history. Everybody wants to come in and take from us. They're going to come in and they're going to pay a price for taking our treasure, for taking our jobs, for doing all of these things. But what I'm doing with the tariffs is people are coming in and they're building at levels you've never seen before. We have $7 trillion of new plants, factories, and other things. Investment coming into the United States. And if you look back at past presidents, nobody was anywhere near that. And this is in 3 months. If people want to, well, we all want to make deals. But I am this giant store. It's a giant, beautiful store, and everybody wants to go shopping there. And on behalf of the American people, I own the store and I set prices. And I'll say, if you want to shop here, this is what you have to pay. I don't think there's any uncertainty there. The only thing they have an option. They don't have to shop here. They can go someplace else, but there aren't too many places they can go. You understand what I mean, though? There's a number at which they will feel comfortable. Yeah, but you can't let them make $1 trillion from us. You can't let them make $750 billion. See, that's really what's not sustainable when China makes $1 trillion. Or $1 trillion. When we have almost $2 trillion worth of, I call it loss. I say, when you have a trade deficit of $2 trillion, I consider that loss. I wasn't worried. They didn't tell me. I did that. I'm doing that until we come up with the numbers that I want to come up with. Met with a lot of countries. I've talked on the telephone. I don't even want them to come in. The bond market was getting the yips, but I wasn't, because I know what we have. This thing was just running as a free spirit. This was the most incompetent president in history. I believe in the court system. It's not what my people told me. They didn't say it was. They said it was the 9-0 was something entirely different. I leave that to my lawyers. I give them no instructions. They feel that the order said something very much different from what you're saying, but I leave that to my lawyers. If they want tanned, That would be the Attorney General of the United States and the people that represent the country. I don't make that decision. I haven't, he said he wouldn't, but I haven't asked him positively. He said he wouldn't because I haven't been asked to ask him by my attorneys. Nobody asked me to ask him that question. I believe that they made him look like a saint, and then we found out about him. He wasn't a saint. He was MS-13, he was a wife beater, and he had a lot of things that were very bad, very, very bad. When I first heard of the situation, I was not happy. Then I found out that he was a person who was an MS-13 member. Okay, and in fact, he had it tattooed right on his arm. Sure, you saw that. He had it tattooed right on his knuckles. MS-13. No, I believe he's a man who has got quite a past. This is no longer just a nice, wonderful man from Maryland, which the fake news had me and other people for a period of time believing. Now, nobody believes that. I really give that to my lawyers to determine. That's why I have them. That's not my determination. Something that, frankly, bringing him back and retrying him wouldn't bother me, but I leave that up to my lawyer. I could bring him back and retry him, but I leave that decision to the lawyers. They say we're in total compliance with the Supreme Court, all courts. I'm not defying the Supreme Court. I never defy the Supreme Court. I wouldn't do that. I'm a big believer in the Supreme Court and have a lot of respect for the justices. I didn't say that. I said if it were permissible according to the law, I would like to do that. Yes. I would love to do that if it were permissible by law. We're looking into that. When I have a person, these would be extreme cases. When I have a person that is a 28-time in and out person that goes out and tries to kill people every time he or she is out, I would have no problem with doing that whatsoever. We're talking about career criminals that are horrible people that we house and we have to take care of for 50 years while they suffer because they killed people. If you ask me whether or not I would do that, I would, but totally, and I think you have to leave this part of the sentence totally subject to it being allowed under law, and people are looking to see if it would be allowed under law. We have crime rates under Biden that went through the roof, and we have to bring those rates down. And unfortunately, those rates have been added to by the illegal immigrants that he allowed into the country. I would do that to people that hit old ladies over the head with a baseball bat, for people that grab their bicycle. You saw that one where they dragged an old woman along the street on a motorcycle? A motorcycle, I think? People that push people into subway trains just before the train is ready to stop. You saw that? The man barely lived? Think of it. And a guy comes up to him and from behind he pushes him. That's a serious, serious thing. Okay, people that shoot people in the back, people that are executioners, yeah, I would have no trouble with that, but subject to it being allowed by law. I see where you're coming from the moment this interview started, and it's fine. I don't mind. I've answered every question that can be answered by mankind or womankind, and I see where you're coming from. I'm not just saying I see where you're coming from, and you're just so wrong. You're so wrong. These are people that have been in jail for 20 times, or career criminals. Do I have a problem with a career criminal that hits people with baseball bats when they're not looking, that pushes people into subways, that shoots people in the face or in the back? I have absolutely no problem with doing that if the law allows it to be done and we're looking at it. And one of the reasons I like it is because it would be much less expensive than our prison system, and I think it would actually be a greater deterrent. I could get you the information, but we're paying less than we would normally. I didn't. What changed where? Because I've watched in Portland, and I watched in Seattle, and I've watched in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and other places. People do heinous acts far more serious than what took place on January 6th, and nothing happened to these people. Nothing. And I said, what a double standard it is. And we were talking about a very small group of people that are in your definition. Most of these people should have been let out a long time ago. There's never been a group of people, maybe with one exception, I won't even go into it. One exception as a group. But there's never been a group of people that's been treated so horribly as the J6 people. You know when I say peacefully and patriotically, nobody mentions that. When I say go peacefully and patriotically, nobody ever mentions that. Nobody mentions the fact that the Unselect Committee of Political Scum, the Unselect Committee, horrible people. They destroyed all evidence, they burned it, they got rid of it, they destroyed it, and they deleted all evidence. And we went in looking for evidence and they said, I'm sorry, we don't have it anymore, it's been destroyed. If I ever did that, it would be unthinkable what you two guys would be doing in writing. You know? And nobody wants to talk about it, and you won't write about it, and nobody writes about it. It's unbelievable, right? But people get it. I mean, people get it. They get what I'm saying, and they obviously believe it because I had a hell of an election. It's everything I campaigned. If you think the way you ask me these questions, like it's so serious that we're moving people out of the country, said during the election that I'm going to move them out of the country, and that's what we're doing. And if we didn't do it, then you would not be safe. I guarantee it. Certainly don't mind having a tax increase, and the only reason I wouldn't support it is because I saw Bush where he said, read my lips, and he lost an election. He would have lost it anyway, but he lost an election. He got beat up pretty good. I would be honored to pay more, but I don't want to be in a position where we lose an election because I was generous, but me as a rich person would not mind paying. And we're talking about very little. We're talking about 1 point. Does it make that much difference? And yet I could just see somebody trying to bring that up as a subject. Okay. And say, oh, he raised taxes. Well, I wouldn't be really, in the true sense, I wouldn't. I'd be raising them on wealthy to take care of middle class. And I love that. I actually love the concept, but I don't want it to be used against me politically. Because I've seen people lose elections for less, especially with the fake news. That would be able to take it. See, that would be able to do it, but I would not mind personally paying more. But the concept is something that may not be acceptable to the public. Due to what? I don't think they're going to cut $800 billion. They're going to look at waste, fraud, and abuse. If it was an increase, if we were deducting something from my wood, but it's waste, it's fraud, and abuse is what we're looking for. And nobody minds that. If it cuts it, I would not approve. I would veto it. Yeah, but they're not going to do that. I watched Nancy Pelosi get rich through insider information, and I would be okay with it. If they send that to me, I would do it. Absolutely. It depends on the company, depends on the market, depends on what the company does. But I think that a lot of companies certainly have been looked at during the Obama and during the Biden regime, certainly. In some cases, yeah. In some cases, not. Doge has been a very big success. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse. Billions of dollars being given to politicians, single politicians, based on the environment. It's a scam. It's illegal, in my opinion. So much of the stuff that we found. But I think Doge has been a big success from that standpoint. Because we want to find waste, fraud, and abuse and want to cut our costs. That's inaccurate, as you know. I mean, it's a crazy question. We just want to find fraud, abuse. We want to find who's on the rolls that shouldn't be, who's getting paid every month by the government that shouldn't be paid. Do these people exist? Many cases they don't. In some cases, even worse, they do. Been getting money and they shouldn't be. I don't know about the IRS because, as you know, I'm not involved in it. But we found tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse. Tremendous. Not that I know of. Now, because we have to have an efficient country. And when the country gets down to bare knuckles, you're going to see something the likes of which this world has never seen before. We're going to make our country strong, powerful, and very rich again. Right now, our country is not sustainable. We're being ripped off by everybody in the world. Other countries, other people, other militaries are ripping us off. We're protecting countries for no money or for very minimal money, and that wasn't supposed to happen. We're not supposed to be protecting everybody. We're supposed to be number one, taking care of ourselves, and number two, helping people when we can, helping outside people and outside countries where we can. But we've been ripped off by levels that you've never seen. European Union sounds nice, but they've been very tough. $300 billion loss. China, hundreds of billions of dollars in losses. And I can go through a list, but I don't want to. Because there are many friendly countries, our friendly countries in many cases are worse than our enemies. And it's not a sustainable model. It's not a sustainable possibility even, that a country can go through that and Biden let it get to a level that is seriously dangerous. It's not only government, it's deals. It's horrible deals that have been made with other countries. As an example, China has been ripping us off for many years until I came along. I upped tariffs on China, hundreds of billions of dollars. We've done hundreds of billions, hundreds. Maybe we didn't think they were right. You look at the people, look at the money that was given away by others. We didn't get anything out of it. We're spending a lot. I think $58 billion in the first term. We were spending tremendous amounts of money, and I am now, but they have to be a little bit careful. A lot of the money, like Stacey Abrams got $2 billion on the environment. They had $100 in the account, and she got $2 billion just before these people left, and had to do with something that she knows nothing about. Shouldn't they be asking those questions? I could give you a list of abuse and waste and fraud, and you don't have any interest in hearing it. I just see by these questions, just wondering with all of the bad things that have happened, with all of the things we found, you have no interest in those things. I don't know if that's right, but it was certainly a big win. And that's despite cheating that took place, by the way, because there was plenty of cheating that took place. 24, yeah. 20, of course. But 24 also, they tried that. They did their best. It's the only thing they're good at. But we're going to have a great country again. Just remember, every single question you're asking, I campaigned on it. I campaigned on all the things you're talking about, all the things you're asking about, and openly campaigned. And we're given credit even by radical left lunatics. We're given credit for that. We're given credit for saying, this is what I'm going to do. If you look at your questions, that's what I campaigned on. It's interesting because you see the relationship. I didn't want to wait, have you leave the room, but you see the relationship. I have that relationship with many leaders. If I can stop losing 3,000 human beings a week on average with Russia, Ukraine, it's only because of me. Nobody else could have stopped it. I think we're going to do that, by the way. I think that'll be done. I think that we're going to make a deal with Iran. I think we're going to make a deal with Iran. Nobody else could do that. Well, I said that figuratively, and I said that as an exaggeration because to make a point, and you know it gets, of course, by the fake news. Obviously, people know that when I said that, it was said in jest, but it was also said that it will be ended. I don't think it's long. I mean, look, I got here 3 months ago. This war has been going on for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president. It's Biden's war. It's not my war. I have nothing to do with it. I would have never had this war. This war would have never happened. Putin would have never done it. This war would have never happened. October 6th would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Would have never happened ever. You then say, what's taking so long? The war has been raging for 3 years. I just got here and you say, what's taken so long? I think peace is possible. You say if Putin is still president? I think with me as president, there's possible. It's very probable. If somebody else is president, no chance. Yeah, I think Putin will. I think Putin would rather do it a different way. I think he'd rather go and take the whole thing. And I think that because of me, I believe I'm the only one that can get this thing negotiated, and I think we're a long way. We've had very good talks, and we're getting very close to a deal. And I don't believe anybody else could have made that deal. He's president now, and I think we're going to make a deal. I don't think they'll ever be able to join NATO. I think that's been from day one. I think what caused the war to start was when they started talking about joining NATO, if that weren't brought up. There would have been a much better chance that it wouldn't have started. Crimea went to the Russians. It was handed to them by Barack Hussein Obama and not by me. With that being said, will they be able to get it back? They've had their Russians. They've had their submarines there for long before any period that we're talking about for many years. The people speak largely Russian in Crimea. This was given by Obama. This wasn't given by Trump. Would it have been taken from me like it was taken from Obama? No, it wouldn't have happened. Crimea, if I were president, it would not have been taken. If Crimea will stay with Russia, we have to only talk about Crimea because that's the one that always gets mentioned. Crimea will stay with Russia. And Zelensky understands that, and everybody understands that it's been with them for a long time. It's been with them long before Trump came along. Again, this is Obama's war. This is a war that should have never happened. I call it the war that should have never happened. But if a deal has happened, I can see us doing business with Ukraine and with Russia as a country. As an empire, it wasn't. These are not things that we had before, so I'd view it a little bit differently if we had the right opportunity. Yeah, I think Greenland would be very well off I think it's important for us for national security and even international security. I think Canada, what you said that? Well, that one, I might be trolling. But I'm really not trolling. Canada is an interesting case. We lose $200 to $250 billion a year supporting Canada. And I asked a man who I called Governor Trudeau, I said, why? Why do you think we're losing so much money supporting you? You think that's right? Do you think that's appropriate for another country to make it possible for a country to sustain? And he was unable to give me an answer. But it costs us over $200 billion a year to take care of Canada. We're taking care of their military. We're taking care of every aspect of their lives, and we don't need them to make cars for us. In fact, we don't want them to make cars for us. We want to make our own cars. We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything from Canada. And I say the only way this thing really works is for Canada to become a state. Wouldn't mind? America will be much stronger. What does that mean? I think I'll be blamed no matter what. Think if I make the country unbelievably successful, which it's not now. We owe $36 trillion, right? It's, when you think about it, a lot of money, but no. I think I'll be blamed whether it's successful or not. I'm used to it. I would say that the blame for that is Biden more than anybody else because as you know, Iran was broke. Okay. And he allowed them to become rich. There was no money for Hamas. There was no money for Hezbollah. There was no money. Iran was broke under Trump, and you know that he knows that. Broke. They had no money, and they told Hamas, we're not giving you any money. When Biden came and he took off all the sanctions, he let China and everybody else buy all the oil. Iran developed $300 billion in cash over a 4-year period. He started funding terror again, including Hamas. Hamas was out of business. Hezbollah was out of business. Iran had no money under me. I blame the Biden administration because they allowed Iran to get back into the game without working a deal. I didn't stop them. I didn't make it comfortable for them because I think we can make a deal without the attack. I hope we can. It's possible we'll have to attack because Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. But I didn't make it comfortable for them, but I didn't say no. Ultimately, I was going to leave that choice to them, but I said I would much prefer a deal than bombs being dropped. By the way, he may go into a war, but we're not getting dragged in. I may go in very willingly if we can't get a deal. Yes, if we don't make a deal, I'll be leading the pack. What I want, and the reason I'm doing it, is because Saudi Arabia I happen to like the people very much, and the crown prince and the king, I like all of them. But they've agreed to invest $1 trillion in our economy. $1 trillion. I'm then going to Qatar, and I'm then going to UAE, and then I'm coming back, and then we're making another. I think our foreign policy has been incredible, and it was before, and it is now. You sort of got a little glimpse of it. I have very good relationships in the Middle East, and I think all over the world. I think it's, well, the smarter people understand. I have solved more problems in the world without asking for or getting credit. Unfortunately, they did nothing. They did nothing with the Abraham Accords. We had 4 countries in there. It was all set. We would have had it packed. So now we're going to start it again. The Abraham Accords is a tremendous success, but Biden just sat with it. Tell you what, I think Saudi Arabia will go into the Abraham Accords. By the way, I think it will be full very quickly. They did nothing. Oh, that will happen. It's tremendous anti-Semitism at every one of those rallies. It's tremendous. And I agree with free speech, but not riots all over every college in America. Tremendous anti-Semitism going on in this country. They can protest, but they can't destroy the schools like they did with Columbia and others. I would have no trouble with it. No. I'll look into it, but I'm not aware of the particular event. Well, sure, but you wouldn't be if this were Biden. Well, first of all, he wouldn't do an interview because he was grossly incompetent. Huh, how did he do? Not too good. I did read the interview. He didn't do well. He didn't do well at all. He didn't do well at anything. And he cut that interview off to being a matter of minutes, and you weren't asking him questions like you're asking me. I am indeed. I've been answering them for years, and I've been getting elected by bigger and bigger numbers all the time. But you didn't ask questions like this to Biden, because if you did, he would have crawled under this beautiful desk. I think Chris Krebs was a disgrace to our country.
I think he was.
I think he was terrible. By the way, I don't know him. I don't think I ever met him. I probably saw him around. Do you know I have people come in like the other one? He came in and he's on CNN all the time as like an expert on Trump. I have no idea who he is. And Chris Krebs, the same thing. I guess he probably said he knows me, but I have no idea. And you know, oftentimes I'll have some people sitting right here. And behind them will be 10 or 15 people from their agency or their office. And they'll stand there, and then all of a sudden I'll hear that like they're all-time experts in me. I know very little about Chris Krebs, but I think he was very deficient. I've got to be doing something right because I've had a lot of law firms give me a lot of money. I think it is because I think they felt that the election was rigged and stolen and they didn't want to be a part of it. You think they gave me $100 million each for nothing? You know, these law firms gave me $100 million worth of work, etc., and other things. Hey, and do you think they gave me that because I'm a nice guy? I don't think so. They gave it to me because they knew what they did wrong and they didn't want to get involved with it. And that's okay. That's the way it works, unfortunately. They Pathies are the top firms in the world. These are the biggest, the best. Cravath, Milbank, Tweed, Paul Weiss. These are the toughest, smartest firms. They don't do this unless there's a little problem or a big problem. I don't think it was a threat. I think they did that because I assume they did it because they felt they did something wrong. Okay, otherwise we would have had a lawsuit. I never heard of that. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I don't remember having said that. I'm serving 2 terms now. One more. I have more people begging me to run again, but I haven't looked at even the possibility. But the only thing that's changed is they think I'm doing a great job and they like the way I'm running the country. They have a border, which you didn't ask about, that's virtually totally closed. The best border we've ever had. I mean, it's really, people can't believe it. They interviewed some farmers, really beautiful people that lived on the other side. They were being drawn into fights and horror shows, and now, it was dangerous. One of them got very badly injured and by an illegal migrant that came across, and they asked him, "How is it now?" He said, "Thank God for Donald Trump. It's the best it's ever been. I've lived here for 50 years. I'd rather not discuss that now, but as you know, there are some loopholes that have been discussed that are well known. But I don't believe in loopholes. I don't believe in using loopholes. I don't know anything about what look. All I can say is this. I am being inundated with requests. I'm doing a good job. Great physical exam, and unlike every other president, I took the cognitive test and I aced it 100%. And I bet you guys couldn't get 100% on that exam. It's a tough exam. You know, when you get into the mid questions, it gets to be pretty tricky and pretty tough, and the last questions are very tough, and I aced it. And I guarantee I'd make a big, beautiful bet that you guys couldn't ace it. But anyway. But look, it's good to have you. It's a very nasty interview. Hey, they don't ask any of the good things. John Adams said that. Where was the painting? We're a government ruled by laws, not by men. Well, I think we're a government ruled by law, but somebody has to administer the law. So therefore, men and women certainly play a role in it. I wouldn't agree with it 100%. We're a government where men are involved in the process of law, and ideally, you're going to have honest men like me.